It's a long one.
Don't do a long one.
Welcome to the Nativot Shalom Shir. I'm going to be studying the Nativot Shalom, the book of Shemot, on page Kuf Chav Vav, 126 in this book. And we're going to talk about, the topic is Nitzchiot Inyan Haman. Why the commandment of the manna, to remember the manna by saving it, preserving all these years, why that's important for generations as opposed to a historical item that happened when the Jews were in Egypt, when the Jews left Egypt. 40 years in the desert, they were fed by the manna, and but that wasn't the end of it. God told us to put this aside as a reminder for all generations. Well, there are many other miracles that took place in the desert and in the Exodus from Egypt, and they're not there. So what's significant about this? So this particular shir is going to talk to us about the importance of remembering the manna, remembering the man in terms of our day-to-day living, in terms of how we make parnasa, how we make a livelihood, in terms of our Emuna, strengthening our Emuna. So let me just dive right in. It says, "Vayomer Hashem al Moshe hineni mamtir lachem lechem min hashamayim." God said to Moshe, "I will rain down from you bread from heaven. B'yotzaham balaktu, and the people will go out and gather it. Dvar yom biyomo, every single day they'll go out and gather this." At the end of that sentence, saying what he's going to do, then it says, "Laman anoso helech b'torasi lo," to see if my people, the children of Israel, follow my Torah or not. Uperish Rashi explains, "Laman anosanu helech b'torasi," he says, "Im yishmur mitzvos hatuluyim bo," if they keep the mitzvahs that are connected with the man, shelo yotiru mimenu, that they shouldn't leave over the man they picked from one day to the next day, it gets spoiled. Lo yotzu b'Shabbos l'lokot, and not to go out and pick on Shabbos, because on Friday a double portion fell. Sifsei Chacham explains, Rashi says, it's not just that they would go out every day and gather the manna. Dilma yirtzel and so b'mitzvahs lo sosiru v'lo b'mitzvah Shabbos. Maybe what God wanted was to test us on whether or not we would follow his word and not leave it over from one day to the next and not go out and pick it on Shabbos. And therefore, we can explain why the beginning of the sentence, I will pour down from you bread from heaven. I'll call mitzvahs to test you on all the mitzvahs that are connected with the manna. As they say, that that's what it should have said. Instead of putting it at the end, after the end of the sentence, saying after they gather day by day, then the testing begins. So what is he saying here? To test you on all of the commandments connected with the man. We have to explain this. Why doesn't it say, I will test you, so that I will test you immediately after this part of the sentence, right here at the beginning? I will rain down bread from you, so I will test you. Waits till the end of the sentence to say that. So Nativot Shalom goes on, and he says, "Rak b'sof ha'pasuk," Only at the end of the sentence, Acher, after it says they'll go out day by day and gather the man, there's a talk about testing the Bnei Israel. We don't find this kind of language anywhere else with any other mitzvah, any other commandment of the Torah, where God says, I'm going to test you with this to see if you're going to follow my commandments. This is the only time, only with the mitzvah of man, of the manna. We found another thing unique with the man. It says further on, this is what God commanded. You should take a measurement of the man to put it aside for generations. So you will see the bread that I fed you with when you left Egypt. Many other commandments, as I said at the beginning, many other miracles took place in the Exodus from Egypt and in the going about in the desert, and there's no commandment to take anything symbolizing any of those other commandments and save it for the generations. What is unique about the manna that God said to save it, to remind every generation? As I've said many, many times, the Torah is not a storybook. The Torah is not a history book. It's a guide. It's an owner's guide, an operator's guide to living in this world. It tells us how to live a life in this world. And whatever is written in the Torah isn't just connected to what was happened in the past as a historical event. It applies to every Jew in the future. He says the way you understand this parsha, parsha Haman hi horav livelihood shel Emuna and Bitachon b'nyanei parnasa. He says the way to understand this whole chapter about the man teaches us about the Emuna and trust, the faith and trust that is necessary for parnas, for making a livelihood. This was Melech, the book written by Noam Elimelech says, it says this in this language, in the present. He doesn't say I did this for you. He says I am doing this for you now. It's forever. Just like God pours rain from the heaven, as we were blessed to see in Eretz Yisrael today, so too He will pour bread to you from heaven. Always, your livelihood comes from heaven. It's up to the Jew to prepare a vessel to receive this bounty from heaven, and the vessel to receive this is the quality of bitachon, of trust in God. Because of this, the Jew has clarity of Emuna, clarity of his belief, of bitachon and trust. That God will bring down the parnasa, the livelihood from heaven, just like He pours rain on the earth, and that bounty will continue. But if the people go out, when they go out of the boundary of trusting God, Oz v'laktu davar yom b'yom, and then they have to go out every day and search for their parnasa. Tzrichim lamu b'chal yom k'dei lekabel parnasam. They have to go out every single day in order to earn their livelihood. Adas zeh, v'var b'sibri HaKodesh dego b'achnei achroim, in the Nenu it says, Ayesod divrei ziknu Baal Shem Tov Tzchulenu, based on what the Baal Shem Tov said. Al Apostle, it says in Yirmiyahu, Baruch HaGever, blessed is the strong person, Asher Yiftach B'Hashem, who has trust in God, Vayu Hashem Yiftacho, and God is his, and God will be his trust. Yesh she'amnam mamim shekadosh baruch hu nosi lo parnasoso. There are those who believe that, yes, God will give us our livelihood. But do you think that you believe that God will provide the parnasa, the livelihood, but you also think that you have to create the ways of doing it. You've got to come up with the plan of how to do it, and then God will help you do it. Ikar Emuna, he says, the main part of Emuna, ilahamin, to believe shakadosh baruch hu ilay kol hayilot, the sibuk is sibuk. The main part of Emuna is to realize that God plots everything out. He prepares everything. He makes all the decisions as to what you should do. He makes the tochnik, the plan for how you should do it. You don't have to do it. Only he. Ain't built to nobody else. And it's sorich l'shum ila the siba she'adam osek k'dei lamshich lo parnasa. You don't have to. It's not necessary for a person to plot and figure out how he's going to get parnasa. Yes, hakol osa Hashem yisborach, because God does all of it. Gam es hayila hasibot. Also the plotting and the planning. The foreplanning is how it's going to happen. Is that Perush? And this is what it means. Baruch HaGever Shivta B'Hashem Hashem Yivtacho. Blessed is the great one, the person who is great, who has trust in Hashem, and Hashem is his trust. Shiboteach B'Hashem B'Shtei Chalakim. He has trust in God in two different ways. One is bototzot, in the actual happening of what happens, the bounty that falls down. And also the plotting, the planning as to what's going to happen, how it's going to happen. Everything is from God. This is what is explained by Rabbi in the sentence. It says, Yomer ish el achiv. One person said to another, said to his brother, this is in the same parsha, Manu, what is this? Because they didn't know what it was. Manhu milashon hachana. Man is from the language of preparation. Kamo, it says in Yonah, Vayiman Hashem. Vaychem Barashi, and Rashi says Manhu hachana mazo, and prepares food. Kamo, Vayomi lehem hamelech, as the king prepared food. V'hainu she'amru ish elachiv manhu. And here, when one says to his brother, "What is this?" Yesh lashos hachana v'siba l'kabel es hashpa bin hashmayim. You have to prepare yourself to receive this bounty from heaven. Because you don't know what it is. Shadayin lo higia la'asega hazos. You haven't reached this high level of bitachon. L'dash shegam ha'ila gufa imi HaKadosh Baruch Hu. And even the planning of what's going to happen before you get the parnasa, that also comes from Hashem. And you really, if you reach that level of bitachon emuna, you don't have to do any preparation. HaKadosh Baruch Hu ba'atzmo, God Himself, making gamhu amsiot b'shvil hashpias asher hu rotz lashpiu. God Himself causes to happen whatever He wants the bounty to be. This is the aspect of the man. But Yatzam v'laktu davar yomo shator melamedes b'zeh. The Torah teaches us at ikar ha'emuna v'bitachon, the main aspect of faith in God and trust in God, shakol, that everything, me'Hashem yisborach, is from God, begam ha'ila v'asiba, even the initial stages of plotting out how it's going to work. The man, parnasa falls every day from heaven, and you don't have to do anything. No preparation is necessary to get the parnasa. You find also, it says, "B'pasuk below, hediv hamarbev hamabit lo hechsir. Lo hediv hamarbev hamabit lo hechsir." It says in the pasuk about the mom, those who gather more really won't end up gathering more, and those who gather less won't end up with less. In other words, God is providing enough for each member of the family. Omer legugulasim, an omer, that measurement for every person. What this means, if a person works day and night, a workaholic, a parnaso on his livelihood, Yasu call mini tach bolo tach chumiod l'harviach. He does everything, all kinds of tricks, everything he can to increase his wealth. Lacher call, after everything, he yot, after all these things that he does, lo yuchol lahasig afilu mashu yoter mashu kovslo min hashmayim. No matter how much he does, he's never going to be able to gain even the slightest bit, a mashu, which is like a nothing, more than what has been predestined for him to receive from heaven every year at Rosh Hashanah. But kein lehepach, hamami lo chesser. Similarly, if he does less work, he's not going to lose out. Gami modem lo yamod klum. If he doesn't work at all, lo yechsel lo ma'uma ma shekavtzu lo min hashmayim. He won't lose out on anything that God promised him for that year. Zohi inyan haman. This is the aspect of the manna. The horos to teach. Al emunah, this level of faith. Shelo hediv hamarba v'amami lo yachsir. That no matter if you work more or less, it's not going to make a difference. Ein b'koach adam laharbos es kitzvoso o lahamig menu. It's not in your power to increase what was destined to be yours this year or to decrease from it. There are times that a person who has to do ishtadlut, has to do things, has to do something for his parnasa, for his livelihood. You can't just sit back. There are times you have to do something. The ach shebe'emes, in truth, actually everything comes from heaven without any work. Ella. But after the hate of Adam Harishon, the sin of Adam and Chava, with the snake, God said to them, "You will earn with the sweat of your brow, you will earn your bread. Therefore, you have to work. Without that, you won't even need that hishtadlut." So, achein sorech l'kayim zot b'chol hayidorim v'adei b'mashi yishtadel ketzat v'yoter hazman yasok b'Torah. Says, but you can fulfill this thing with the sweat of your brow. You shall earn your bread by doing a little bit, do a little bit less, and the rest of the time spend studying Torah. Barizeh adas havodah hadam. And this is what it means: service of the ground. Shil lo yisra adam esad maso v'vaday lo totzi lo klum. If a person doesn't plant the seeds in the ground, nothing's going to happen. So we have to plant the seeds. But after you plant the seeds, lachar shu zoreya lo noter lo yoter mala. So there's nothing more to do. Rak HaKadosh Baruch Hu mored geshamim. God brings down the rain. Tvua tzumechos, and the grain grows. Kain hu b'chal inyani hamasa. This is with everything. With everything that you do, A person has to work a little bit, but not more than that. In other words, what the Torah is teaching us is that you're not going to increase your wealth. You're not going to increase what is destined for you by sacrificing your ability to study Torah to become a workaholic. We're also taught if somebody wants to increase his money by doing forbidden things, like theft, ugazela, like robbery, or ribit, or charging improper interest. He just doesn't understand what's going on, doesn't understand what Hashem wants, doesn't understand that in fact, all these things that he's doing through ill-gotten gains by violating the law, he would have received the same thing by doing permissible things, because it goes back to what is destined for your income, your livelihood on each Rosh Hashanah for the following year. The tzaddikim say that if this thief had not stolen, whatever was coming to him would still come to him anyway, permissibly. This is what our sages tell us. Anybody who has bread in his basket, you have food in your house. When you say, what am I going to eat tomorrow? There's only limited, small amount of faith. You got the food in your house now. Be thankful for that. Don't worry about tomorrow. A Jew must have faith that God gives food to every creation, to every creature, to make his livelihood constant. If you're worried about tomorrow, you have very small amount of faith. What comes out of all these holy words is Parsha Haman, who nitzchis, that the chapter about the manna is forever, it's eternal. Umalamedet Orchot Chaim Emuna and Bitachon teaches us a guidepost, a guidebook of life, of Emuna, of faith in God, and Bitachon, and trust in God. The whole pasuk of Parsha, every sentence in this Parsha, I will pour down from you bread from the heaven. Or people will go out day and day and gather. Similarly, the one who takes more will not have any increase. The one who takes less will not have less. All of these are the foundation of Emuna and faith in the aspect of Parnasa. And if all these things are on a high level, this also is the service of Hashem. This is what is said. Dafka Khan, here specifically with the man, Laman Anasanu, Helech B'Torasi Imlo, to see whether or not the Jews will follow my Torah or not. I'll call HaYesodos Shel Emuna Bitachon Shem Yesodos Avodas Hashem Shem Rakan, and all the foundational principles of faith and trust in God that we've talked about here. Shakadosh Baruch Hu Mashpia Davar Yom B'Yomo, God every day brings down the bounty, Shefa Parnas Yehudi, livelihood to the Jew, Laman Anaso Helech B'Torasi Imlo, to see if they will keep the Torah or not. Ayim yelo es hamadrega haruya shel Emuna and Bitachon. Does he have the right? Is he on the right level of Emuna and Bitachon, of trust in God and faith in God? Because of this, it explains specifically, put aside a little bit of the manna to be a reminder for all the generations, to remember to see the food that God gave us in the wilderness. It's to carry on, to continue the emuna, the faith and trust for generations to generation, that God is behind everything. God is behind your parnasa. God is behind everything that happens to you. God is always bringing down, pouring down bread from heaven, parnasa from heaven, kamoshu mamtir matir, just like he pours down rain. The only thing is, you have to have this kli, as I said before, this vessel of bitachon and emuna to catch it. As it says in the Gemara, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai, the students from Shimon Bar Yochai asked him, Ma lo yaran lehem Yisrael mon pamachat b'shana. Why doesn't the man just fall once in a year for the Jews, one time a year? Why does man have to fall every single day? He told them mashal, a story. What this is like is lemelech basar adam, to a worldly king. He has one son. If he gives him his provisions for the entire year once in the year, the son doesn't see his father except once a year to get that parnasa, to get that sustenance for the year. So he stood up a yom v'yom. He decided to give him the parnasa every single day. And that way his son would see his father every single day. Af Yisrael, also Bnei Israel. Somebody who has 4 or 5 children. He's worried. Omer, he says, maybe the man won't fall tomorrow. They'll all die of hunger. So that what happens is all of them then have to turn their hearts to their Father in heaven. And what this teaches us is moral etzem inyan haman. This teaches us the basic concept of the man. Shehu ha'emunash al Yehudi lahamin shebachol yom yesh tzidur chadash. A Jew has to believe with perfect faith that every single day there's a new pipe, a new conduit, lashpia parnasa, to bring parnasa down from heaven. V'chol yom hu tzorech b'chadesh lagia al Hashem yisborach. Every day he must come to God. He must renew the coming to God. The einav nosot l'shamayim. His eyes must be looking at heaven, looking to God. V'lechein nemar davka binyan haman. And this is why it says only with the aspect of the manna, the man anasanu helech b'torasim lo. So I'll test them to see if they go according to my Torah or not. Kizeu miyasod avodas Hashem. This is the foundation of serving God. Shehudi hoyiyat tzorich b'chol yom lagia al Hashem yisborach. A Jew every single day must come to God. Yikabel b'chol yom b'nei aviv shemayim, and receive every day the face of his Father in heaven. And he has to have a relationship with God. And when as we've explained, the aspect of the curse, where the snake was cursed, after enticing Chava to eat from the Eitz Hadas, she'afar lachmo. It was cursed that the dirt will be his bread. It sounds like a bracha. Sounds like a blessing, not a curse. His food is found in every place. The snake, wherever he goes, he finds food, doesn't have to go work for it. A person has to work for his livelihood. Has to go to God, turn to God every single day. Ella, because God does not want to see the snake. He's not welcome. He's not welcome. God doesn't want to hear his voice. And to watch his face. I feel even once a year. Therefore, he gives the snake food wherever he is, doesn't have to go out of his way for it. And the snake never lifts up his eyes to heaven to ask for his sustenance. Of a Yehudi, but a Jew, is blessed with this, that he must come to God every single day. Kumara Kosev, as it says in Tehillim, the eyes of all are upon you, you give them their food at the right season. We say this every day in Ashrei, Poseach es yodecha, open up your hand, umasbia, l'chol chai ratzon, and give, say to you, fill up, make every living person content with the food they get, having enough food to eat. And that's the key. The key is not how much you work, but how much Emuna and Bitachon you have. And the amount of ishtadlus that you need to fulfill what Hashem said to Adam Harishon, with the sweat of your brow you'll earn. Your money depends. Your money depends on your level of Bitachon and Emuna, and you can reach the level of Bitachon and Emuna where you don't have to do anything. If you have that level, may we all be zocha to increase our level of faith in God and trust in God, and to recognize that everything that happens comes from God, and not only the things that we see coming down, but the plan to put into action, that also comes from God. Thank you for listening. I'm going to stop the recording. I'm also going to let you know that next week there will not be a Nativot Shalom cheer on Tuesday night.
Yashikor.
Oh, I just stopped the screen share. Let me just stop the recording.